My next guest's work has evolved over the decades from film photography into digital photography, into photo montage, and even further into mixed media through combining acrylics, oils, and watercolors with her digital works. Her art is whimsical and surreal and dreamy, and her esoteric path informs this art in every way. Her complex imagery seems to bridge the worlds, creating not just art, but medicine for the human spirit. Please welcome to Inside Arthead, the artist, Liz Houston. Greetings, everyone, and thanks for joining the Inside Arthead podcast. It's here we'll explore the inspiration, motivation, process, and fulfillment of creating art. I'm your host, Roni Zulu, bringing you inspirational stories from artists around the world. Liz Houston, thank you for being on the show and letting us get inside your art head.
Thank you for having me.
I've been wanting to interview you for a long time. For those who may not have seen Liz's work, you will understand why I'm a big fan. Her work is kind of in the family of what I do. We're going to get into that. Let's first start with you, Liz. Did you know you wanted to be an artist when you were a small child?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I did.
You did? Now,
yeah.
Did your family support that? Were your family artists? How'd you walk into that? How did it get started?
So my mom actually made ceramics. So as a little kid, I was in the garage making ceramics with my mom. But it was a hobby. It wasn't anything anyone took seriously. As I grew older, I wanted to get into other things, and that wasn't supported at all because it wasn't practical. How do you earn a living this way? You know, the usual trope. So then I diverted and I took other paths, but art kept calling me. And it's funny because I found some old drawings from when I was really little, and it's very similar to what I'm doing still. Just this figure in the center with all these crazy symbols. And that's what I've done since I was really young.
Now, that's fascinating that you meant that you were into ceramics. You were more of a 3D artist early on. How did that transfer from what you did then to now? I mean, I would think a lot of that, when we talk about art, we're talking about feel. With ceramics, I would imagine the feel is a bit more literal than a two-dimensional artist. Can you tell us a comparison of the feel of the two and moving from one to the other?
Well, it was more necessity because that was what was available. Because my mom was teaching ceramics classes. It wasn't pottery, unfortunately. It wasn't like a wheel. We would slip into molds, and then paint the raw ceramic, fire it in the kiln at home. So there was a lot of detail work, like scraping off the mold, the seams, just really getting in there. And I find that that's still my favorite part of my current work is really getting into those teeny tiny details that nobody notices, but that make all the difference. The glint in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Without it, the face doesn't come to life, but with it, you have soul. And that's what I learned when in ceramics, I think.
Now, would you say that in most of your artistic endeavors, would you say you're a self-taught artist?
Yes.
Primarily?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a challenge? A lot of trial and error? What would you say are the benefits and maybe some of the challenges of being self-taught?
Well, I think oh my gosh, it's all been challenging,
Yeah.
just how do I do this? But also, I mean, art is creativity, right? So solving a problem, how can I do this without the skill that I need? Oh, I'll turn to photography. Oh, I'll put a bodysuit on and use myself as a model and create this pose. I need the arm this way. And I can't make it believable without. So there's a lot of problem solving, and I think being self-taught gave me the freedom to solve my problems. Luckily, I've been surrounded with artists my whole life, so I had friends early on that showed me Photoshop,
Hmm.
and little things that I didn't know how to do, pointed out shadows. I've had guidance, um, graciously, but yeah, definitely self-taught and all trial, still trial and error, still.
I'm glad you brought that up about self-taught because in my early days of being self-taught, there is a bit of freedom to be okay with trial and error because you know you're not under scrutiny in a classroom. You're
Mhm.
not going to get graded. You're just going to
Yeah.
do whatever happens. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that out. And I hope any budding artists who are maybe feeling a little frustrated with being self taught kind of lean into that and kind of be cool with, hey, you can make mistakes and it's okay because you're not trying to get graded. You're just trying to figure out who you are in your art. And I'm glad
Yes.
that you allowed yourself to do that so that we could experience what you do.
Thank you.
Let's go way into what you do. I'm going to start picking apart some specifics.
Okay.
Once again, my viewers and listeners who may have not seen Liz's work, which you should, and we'll get to that. Primarily, your subject matter is the human body, very much like mine, yes?
Hmm.
Primarily females.
Hmm.
Tell me about that. Is there a why or does it just happen?
It just happens, but I've realized now, because I'm about to do a 20-year retrospective of this kind of work that I make now.
Wow.
Um, right? It's been a journey of self discovery, um, a journey of healing, a journey of like being okay with who I am and being okay with being female and being okay with just the circumstances of my life. And um, it's really just been, and it's kind of been self indulgent in a way, but it's been really, really honest and really, and I think that's why people relate, even if they don't see themselves in my figures, because there's a point when you're making personal work where it transcends the personal and it becomes universal. But the only way that happens is when it is honest and when you go deep enough that it's like this I don't know, collective unconsciousness. You're swimming in those waters, and then it becomes a story that other people can see themselves in, and they find healing in it. So I love the figure. I love the human body, and I'm also the most available model. So I just use myself all the time because I'm here, and what else do I have to do but pose for myself?
Can that be scary sometimes because you are using you and you're exposing yourself? You're saying, hey, this is me. And is it sometimes a bit scary to put your heart on your sleeve, as you might say, with your art? Because I get that. And when I see your art, I can tell that, wow, this woman is exposing something about herself. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, it's terrifying. I'm still scared. I've had my shop for 12 years where every day I walk in and I expose my art to everyone and my heart. And some days I choose not to go in because it's so overwhelming to be vulnerable like that. Like I just don't have the bandwidth. And um, it continues to be difficult, but it also continues to be so rewarding because
Hmm.
again, it transcends the self at a certain point. And as long as I remember that, um, then my art becomes like of service. And people that come into the shop experience moments of healing and moments of it's they cry every day. Somebody cries in my shop looking at my work, and what a gift. They're not crying because they're looking at me, they're crying because they're looking at themselves. So it's a matter of keeping it in perspective that it's while it's I'm bearing my heart and soul, it's also not just about me, and that helps
Hmm.
a lot.
Now, your art is a lot about transformation. Um, to me, it's pretty evident in some of the pieces. And some of the pieces you have to stare at for a while because your art is very, I think it's, how would I even put it? Which is a good thing. If someone can't describe your art, I would say that's that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's something that it's haunting, but not in the horror way, but in the it gets inside of you and makes you wonder, what am I looking at? This is scary, but at the same time, this is wonderful. This makes me want to go somewhere where maybe I'm not comfortable. Is that intentional?
No, but I think
No.
that's reflective of my journey making it because I feel the same way. Sometimes I'm frightened of what's coming out, but you have to follow the path, right? You can't it's like anything you fear. You don't you'll never get through it if you stop at the places that scare you. You have to move forward into the hope, into the transformation, into the light. Like the darkness gives way to the day, and both need each other. And so, yeah, I feel that, and it scares me, and it's not intentional. It just is the nature of the beast.
The nature of the beast. And also, I've noticed from what you create, I loved your blending of, let's say, ancient and modern worlds. There's a lot of what's in your work that is present day, but there's some kind of pull from the past and some kind of crazy alchemy you're doing over there. Well, where did that come from? That, I'm not sure if I call it your style, your mode, or whatever, but can you speak on that blending of ancient and modern that is very evident in your artwork?
Yeah, I think it comes from my interests. I love ancient Greece, and I'm obsessed with it. And I that's my little niche specialty where I could just pontificate for about ancient Crete and the Minoans. So I source from that, but I also have this. I love the Victorian age, and I love and then I love surrealism, and then I have a daily meditation practice that I've had for 30 years, and so the combination of those things like that's just what I pull from, and it because I'm being so honest and so real. I think I think it just happens, because I'm pulling from what I love, and what I love are those things, those four things. Does that make sense?
Oh boy, it sure does. One thing I like, you mentioned a daily meditation practice. Can you,
Hmm.
is it too intimate to be asking what that is and maybe how it affects your art and your life, which I'm sure it does if it's a daily practice?
Yeah, it affects. It's not too personal. I'm happy to share. It's evolved. It began very simply, like more of like a Buddhist traditional kind of thing. But my path has always been a combination of, it's pagan, it's shamanic, it's tantric, it's like this whole thing. So my morning practice is just a quiet sit where I just kind of, drop in and descend. And I will receive images. When I receive a certain stillness, I'll receive like just a feeling tone picture, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a seed for my art. Um, and that's part of the gift that I've been given from this continuous practice. That and a sense of inner calm, even though I'm very high anxiety most like in my daily life. But when I drop in, it's like, oh yeah, everything's good. There's this stillness. And then I kind of go fishing, and that's even David Lynch talks about that, catching the big fish, right? He goes into
Mm-hmm.
meditation and encounters an idea. And I'm sure it's influenced by the practices and the studies, and chanting and different sadhanas that I'm in, and different wheels of parts of the wheel of the year. That all influences, and it's all in the work. But my work isn't about a particular spirituality. It's just about um, life. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned the meditation thing because I meditate once a day in my sauna. And what you said about dropping in and things grow out of it, that really hit me because the same thing happens to me. It's almost like you have to go into some kind of darkness for something to grow, like seeds. They're planted underground in the dark. Uh, Thoughts are the same. They're in the deep recesses of our mind, and we have to allow our mind to go there. Like human bodies, we're gestated in the darkness of the womb. So I think even if you believe in the Big Bang theory, everything was darkness, and then some light spark. So yeah,
That's beautiful.
that
Yeah,
dropping in, like you said, allowing yourself to drop into that that kind of dark, that empty place, and see what grows out. That's very cool. I think a lot of people could benefit from practicing something similar or finding something for themselves the way you have. And
absolutely.
and that gets me to your art. Your art is kind of a portal.
Mm,
That's the way I see
thank
it. It looks like I used to play this video game called Portal, and you had to
you.
use this machine, and it would shoot a hole in the wall, and you go through the wall, and there's no telling where you would end up in another universe. Your art is the same. It's like that. Um, so you're the wow. It's almost like you're the. I don't know if you're the one who creates the portal, or do you create the universe that's on the other side? What are you doing over there? What kind of witchery and
Ooh.
sorcery are you doing?
I feel like it's all of the above, depending on the piece. Sometimes I need an escape, so I will create a portal and find what's on the other side. But then sometimes it's like, where do I want to go? What do I want to escape into? I
Hmm.
want a landscape that feels more hopeful and less desolate, or, whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's both and, for sure.
Awesome. Have you ever done a piece to particularly heal yourself from something?
Yes,
You
many.
have.
Oh
Can
yeah.
you give us one example of maybe something happened in life and maybe it wasn't so pleasant or whatever, and you
Hmm.
decided, you know what, I'm gonna bleed on this piece of paper and see what happens.
Two come to mind. One early on. Um, I don't want to get into like early life stuff. Let's just say early life was bad. We'll
Hmm.
just say that.
Yeah.
And one of my first pieces was called Keeper of the Family Secrets.
Hmm.
It's not a piece I show anymore because I can't, like, I look at it and the little part of me is just like terrified. And all it is a person looking at a wall and all the shadows, because I wanted to do like Plato's Cave, right? So the piece was
Mm.
kind of a reflective of Plato's Cave, and I was the monsters, the shadows were the monsters of my own childhood, and that was an intense piece, and I still can't really look at it,
Hmm.
um, but I had to get it out, and that was 20 years ago. That was one of my very first pieces, and it's almost like I think because that was one of my first pieces, I was able to kind of go deeper quickly because I faced most immediate darkness, personal darkness. Um, and then when I was contending with, um, how do I even put this? Just a big life change and
Hmm.
having to kind of reorient myself in a new way, find the strength of myself to carry on, to, like it was a big reimagining. I made a piece called Walking the Spaces Between Where You End and I Begin. And the ground is littered with skeletal remains, and there's a figure, which is me in a bodysuit, walking through the sky with big green wings. And
Mm.
green is the color of healing, right? But she's walking, she's not rushing through it, because
Mm.
I knew in that moment that this deliberate practice, this deliberate process of rebuilding myself and rebuilding my life had to be slow and deliberate and
Hmm.
conscious. And I couldn't be afraid of the new heights and the new perspective. So those are the two pieces that come to mind.
That's so awesome that you could allow yourself to do that, and those kind of the pieces are real. and I love that in art. There's so much stuff out there that's done just because it's in vogue, but it's so nice to see something that's actually very real and sometimes a little too real, but that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah.
Um, let's actually talk about um, how you make your art. I haven't gone there yet. I know that you're one of those artists that can do anything. I know that you do
Oh,
photography, you paint, you draw, you this, that. When we see a Liz piece online, how is that made?
it's a combination of paint and photography,
Mm-hmm.
and each piece is different as far as the ratios. Primarily, Photoshop is my tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say 60-70% of each piece is Photoshop. But that means it's a combination of my photography, me in a bodysuit, me photographing things around my house, just tchotchkes and things that I collect, crowns, bones. I've bones everywhere, all of that stuff. I began as a photographer, so I have all of these skills and all of these, this capacity to photograph things for the purpose of art. Um, and then I'll print, and this happened by accident. One time I
Mm.
printed on metal, and the printer gouged the paper. Like I had all these pizza wheel marks, and it was right before a show. And I was like, I can't, I had like 24 hours. I couldn't redo it all. So I had to paint on top of it to fix these pizza wheel marks. And then I realized that I could paint and that could be a part of the process. So now I'll print on different surfaces. I'll print on different kinds of paper. Velvet fine art paper is by Epson is one that I can actually, if you seal it, you can paint on top of it. It's thick enough that you can use acrylic, and then I'll scan that and combine that with the existing Photoshop piece, and then I digitally work some more, and then I print, and then I paint some more, and kind of sometimes I'll mess it up. Sometimes I'll like crinkle it up and spray it with chemicals and leave it outside and let the sun bleach it, and then scan that in. So there's this like crinkly, I don't know, organic feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to plan it so I end with paint. So I'll do a canvas print and then I'll add stuff with acrylic usually at that point. But it doesn't always end that way because art is what it is. And sometimes I print it and it's like, I'm good. Don't touch me. But they take between 3 months and 9 months to make each piece.
Wow.
Yeah,
This is some serious layering.
yeah,
And when you were describing it, it reminded me of my painting style because I paint in old
yeah,
master style, which is layering after layering after layering. And it sounds like that's what it takes for you to create a piece. But
yeah.
have you found that even though it's labor intensive, it doesn't bother you? Because people ask me, how long does it take to do one of my pieces? As long as one of yours, as opposed to some of my friends who do more abstract art, they can do a painting in a day. And when I tell
Shocking.
them, I know, I'm like, that would be so cool, but
Right.
that's just not. It's not my mode. I would if
Yeah,
I could. Um, do you enjoy the process? Because it's labor intensive. Do you enjoy it?
I love it. I love it. I kind of miss it. I haven't been able to make new work for a couple months now because I was trying to finish this deck, and my body craves it.
Hmm.
It's like craving anything, like craving sugar, craving coffee, craving whatever you crave. I crave time with my work, like a fish craves water. I really love it so much. And without it, my life would be so empty. I don't even want to, yeah, I couldn't be without it. It's everything.
I hear you on that one. There are times when I've been on vacation, on longer vacations, and come,
Hmm.
let's say if I take a 7 day vacation, by day five, I'm getting very antsy because I haven't been at my easel for 5 days. And like you said,
Right?
that's like 5 days without food and water. It's like this doesn't feel right. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get you on that one. I get you big time. People think I'm a little crazy. They're like, can't you relax? I'm like, well, I'm
That is how I
relaxed.
relax.
That yeah, that this is how I relax. So I need to get back
Hmm.
to my easels. I'm glad you brought that up, and that I think that speaks to it being also a passion. Can you speak about passion in art?
Mm.
Because you hear that term all the time. You should,
Yeah.
follow your passion, passion, passion. What is that? What does that
S-
mean?
I'm actually going to talk about something one of my teachers said, one of my spiritual teachers. She's amazing.
Awesome.
Um, so I don't approach it with passion, even though I have a lot of passion for it.
Hmm.
It's more interestedness, right?
Ooh.
So yeah, because interestedness is much less. It's like lower. It's more accessible, right? Passion kind of demands a lot, but
Hmm.
interestedness, it's like, huh, notice that shadow over there. That's telling me something. And then it becomes a conversation, and then it leads to, or I'm interested in gardening right now. I'm like tending to my little garden outside, and how that's going to affect my work that I'm about to start tomorrow, is I'm already thinking about it's going to be more green. I don't use a lot of greens in my work, but this new piece is going to have some green because I am interested in gardening, and that interestedness affects my art. So it's about, I feel like interestedness is a much, that's the path I like. And that's how I approach my spiritual work too, because, you have to have a certain amount of interestedness to sit for 30, 40 an hour. You have to be interested in the process and interested in what you're engaging with. And if you're not, why do it? So that's my answer.
That is a damn good answer. I
Thank
like that a
you.
lot, and especially when you talk about the time that it takes. Because just because I have a passion for painting as a whole, well, if if I take on, let's say, a commission and I'm not interested in it, God, that's going to be grueling.
Right.
As opposed to
Yes.
something that I just want to do. Uh,
Yes.
so I'll have to have someone slide food under the door because I haven't eaten for 3 days and I'm still in there painting. So
Yes.
interestedness. I'm
And people
going
feel
to.
that on the other end. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think they do in your work because have you noticed that you may have done some favorite pieces that are favorite to you, and without people knowing that they're your favorites, they gravitate to them a little bit more than others.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I found that too. So when you're really interested in something, I think because you're coming from a true human place, well, when other people are coming from a true human place, that there's a connection.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your style evolving over the years. Um, would you say it's changed a lot or subtly or not at all?
I think it's changed subtly.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know that I could describe how it's changed, except that I feel more willing to be seen. I'm not hiding behind as many gimmicks as I did in the beginning.
Hmm.
And I say that with love to my former self, right? Like,
Hmm.
because it was really scary in the beginning, it was terrifying to be self taught amongst all these people who had degrees and knowledge and skills that I just like found a way to kind of, I don't know, to cultivate without having any training. Um, and so I feel like I used to hide behind that a lot. And these days I'm much more willing to be seen. Like, for example, this I'm doing a 20-year retrospective and I'm hanging the show in like 2 weeks. And it's 60 pieces over the last that I'm picking of my favorites of the last 20 years. And most of them I am showing in 16 by 20 with a simple black frame.
Mm.
No antique frames, no bubble glass,
Oh, wow.
just the work. And this is the biggest thing I've ever done as far as being vulnerable because I realized the other day looking at my work, just laying there on this big table in my studio, right? That the work doesn't need to be in a fancy frame to be
Hmm.
uh, seen or appreciated. Like
Hmm.
the work is good on its own. And that's like, so I'm not hiding anymore. That's how my style has evolved, I think. And even the pieces that my most recent work, there's a new kind of wow, it's hard to talk about this. There's a new openness and vulnerability that wasn't there before, even though it's always been vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like the Dance of the Seven Veils, Salome, right? It's just like the veils they just keep dropping, and you're just left with the self, and that's kind of where I'm at.
That's awesome.
If that makes sense.
Oh, that totally makes sense. You're to let it happen, even if it's wow. I let this thing go and it made me happier, or I let this thing go and it made me a little more afraid. Either one, still let them go,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
just gonna get you closer to you and your art more about you, which is what we want to see. And let me ask you this. I've tried to explain to our listeners and viewers what your art looks like, and we're going to make sure that they get to see that. I'm sure at times you have to describe. If someone says, "Hey, you're an artist," they meet you somewhere. What's your art like? I know that's a tough question, but what do you say? Like, Liz, what do you do? What's this look like?
So sometimes I'll say um, surrealism from a female point of view, just because like the figures are usually female. Oh, that's a really hard question. It's usually like mixed media surrealism with
Mhm.
female figures and a little bit of spirituality. It's I'm not very good at describing it because I feel like all the words fall short,
And,
right?
and and that wasn't fair of me because there's so much. It's that
I should have an
classic.
elevator speech. I should.
I should too, but it's hard as an artist because that old "a picture tells 1,000 words." Well, I can't do an elevator speech with 1,000 words. I'd have to sit there and tell you about it for quite a while, and it's best for people to see it. So if you could,
Hmm.
you have your own space, your own shop, yes,
Hmm. I
and
do.
people can come by and see your work.
Yes. Yes.
Can you tell us where that shop is?
Sure. It's inside the Last Bookstore in downtown LA. It's a big bookstore, Spring and Fifth in the historic core. And upstairs there's like five artist shops, galleries, studios, and I'm one of the five. And it's just a small little space that, yeah, in the
And
heart of downtown.
what's it called?
My shop is just Liz Houston Studio Shop, but it's
Perfect.
inside the Last Bookstore.
Awesome. And what about online? Where can we find you? Where can we take a look at some of your work?
I have a website, lizhouston.com. Houston like Angelica, not like the city.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that my listeners and viewers will get a kick out of your work. If you haven't seen Liz's work, I suggest you check it out. It's really mind blowing. It's something different. If you want to see something outside of the norm and some pieces that can make you think about yourself, about others, about the world around you, and your place within that, and how you react, and I could go on and on forever, then I would suggest that you check out Liz's work. Thank you, Liz, so much for being on the show, allowing us to get inside your art head. And I'm looking forward to this 20-year retrospect. That's going to be awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, to my viewers and listeners, thanks for checking out the show. And if you enjoyed this episode with Liz Houston, please check out some of my other episodes. I'm sure that you'll get a kick out of them. And until the next time, be well.